Have you ever stopped to think about what it takes to keep a critical medical device, something like a pacemaker or an insulin pump, running perfectly? There's this whole hidden world of checks and balances. And today we're going to pull back the curtain on that invisible safety net. So let's kick things off with a question for you. If you had to take a guess, what do you think is the single most important component inside a pacemaker? Is it the battery? The little computer chip? Maybe the casing itself? Well, the answer is probably a tiny, super specialized part that you've never even heard of, made by a company you've definitely never met. And that right there, that single fact, is why the approval process for that part and that company is one of the most demanding, most rigorous processes on the planet. I mean, think about it. The reliability of this incredibly complex, life-saving device can literally come down to one single tiny component. So how on earth do manufacturers make sure every single piece is not just good enough, but absolutely perfect? It all starts with a very demanding two-part approval process. Okay, so this diagram basically lays out the whole blueprint. And what you'll see are two parallel paths that have to be completed before a part even gets close to a device. On one side, you've got the supplier selection, that's in green. And on the other, you've got the material qualification in blue. A great way to think about it is this. You have to vet the artist and you have to vet the paint. Both have to be totally exceptional. So let's dive into that first path, the green one. See, it's not enough to just have a fantastic component. The company that's making it has to prove that they are a stable, reliable, and seriously high-quality partner. They basically have to run what you could call the supplier gauntlet. First up, supplier audits. This is boots on the ground. Teams literally go on-site, inspect the facilities, and pore over their processes. Next, they hammer out these legally binding supplier quality agreements, which puts every single expectation down in writing. No ambiguity. Only after clearing those hurdles does a company get formal supplier approval. But, and this is key, it doesn't just stop there. Their supplier status is constantly being tracked and classified based on how well they're performing. Okay, so let's say the company checks out. They've passed the gauntlet. Now we shift over to that parallel path in blue, the component itself. This is where that little piece of material goes under the microscope to make absolutely sure it meets every single tiny technical requirement. And the level of detail here is just incredible. It all kicks off with specification development. Engineers define the exact chemical, physical, and electrical properties the material has to have. Then it's classified based on risk. After that, it goes through this intense material qualification, just a whole battery of tests to prove it meets those specs. And finally, and this is maybe the most crucial step, comes material validation, making sure it actually works perfectly once it's inside the finished medical device. All right, so you've done it. The supplier passed the gauntlet, the material passed its litmus test. Everything is approved. The job's done, right? You just fire off a purchase order and move on, right? Oh, not even close. That's because this whole approval thing, it's not a finish line, it's a continuous loop. Getting that first approval is really just the beginning of the relationship. The real safety, the deep trust, comes from constant management and constant improvement. And that's what this cycle of trust is all about. It's this dynamic, ongoing process of analysis, selection, optimization, and control that makes sure quality stays sky high for the entire lifetime of the product. Let's break this loop down. So, the cycle really starts with analysis. This is all about constantly measuring performance. You're asking questions like, how were the delivery times? What was the defect rate? Every single piece of data from past projects is gathered up and put under the microscope to figure out what's working and what isn't. Now, all of that data feeds directly into the next phase, selection. And this isn't just about picking new suppliers. It's about constantly reevaluating the ones you already have. The analysis leads to a really clear, data-driven decision. Do we keep going with this partnership, or is it time to find someone better? From there, you move into optimization. This is where the manufacturer actually works with its suppliers to make things better for everyone. They're looking for ways to make the supply chain more efficient, maybe reduce costs, but without ever sacrificing quality. It's all about making the partnership run smoother. And finally, we have controlling. This phase is all about proactively getting ahead of any possible risk. Supply risk, cost risk, compliance risk, you name it. This constant risk management creates new data, which, you guessed it, feeds right back into the analysis phase, bringing the loop full circle and starting the whole process over again. So, when you put all of these pieces together, that intense, upfront vetting process and the continuous management cycle, what you get is this incredibly robust, invisible safety net. It's a system that's designed to catch problems long, long before they could ever reach a patient. So if we just boil this entire thing down, it really comes down to these 4 core principles. 1. Vet the company. 2. Test the component. 3. Monitor performance relentlessly. And 4. Improve the process constantly. It's a simple framework for what is an incredibly complex and absolutely vital job. And really, this whole invisible process is what creates trust. It's the difference between a device that just works and a device you can literally trust with your life. Which leaves us with one final thought. What other invisible safety nets in our technology, our food, our travel, do we all rely on every single day without ever even seeing them?